So here we are at the Archery Learning Center, and I'm going to be setting up a good buddy of mine, Pat's new Hoyt Stratos bow, converting everything off of his old Invicta bow, putting it onto his new bow, and hopefully getting him ready to win Vegas this year. Or at least second place behind me. So we're going to be doing that, and I'll just kind of be walking you through. Since it's not my bow, I have no idea like anything about his setup. I'm going to be basically walking you through how I would take someone's, old bow and set up a new bow and measuring everything off the old one, putting it on the new one, and doing all that stuff. So hopefully you guys will pick up a couple tips and tricks in between there. So let's go do it. All right, so here we got Pat's old bow, his old Invicta, and we got his new one in the box. And let's see what we got to do. We're going to measure his draw length first of all, and his poundage and all that, so I can set up his new one, get it pretty close to the same. And so I'll walk you through it. Come on back here. So George Rouse was nice enough to let us use his facility here, which is pretty awesome, by the way, if you haven't ever been here. He's been trying to get me here for years. It's my first time here, and it's pretty awesome. And to see all those targets over on the wall that, from all the youngsters he's trained, all the young Hornets that have just worked their way up through the ranks, and, it's pretty awesome to see that. So pretty cool facility here. So I guess one of the first things we'll do is put this in here and check his draw length just to see what that is. And I'm just going to use this here. So pardon me if at any time look a little clumsy, because I'm not in my home element, so some of these things are set up a little different, but crank this back, get his draw length. Just watch that bottom peg there, get it close, and then get it to where that peg just hits the cable. Oh my goodness, Pat. I don't know if he's wanted to shoot the timing like that, but it's not how I would shoot it. Now I need a tape measure. Found one. All right. So here's something a lot of people may not know. So like AMO draw length, that's the standard draw length. Let me take this stabilizer off here so you can get a better shot of this. All right, so AMO draw length. So the way you measure that is basically from the rest hole right here on pretty much all of the bows that I know of. It's going to be pretty much in line with the throat of the grip. But on the Hoyts, I just measure it from this back rest hole right here, the center of it, and then just measure to the string. So once you get that measurement, which this one is just a hair over 28 and an 1/8, you would add 1 3/4 inches to that, and that's going to give you your AMO standard draw length. So what all the manufacturers list the draw length on the bows, that's what they're going to be listed as. So it's this draw length here plus 1.75 inches. So Pat's going to be 29 and 7/8 pretty much. Is 29 7/8 AMO draw length. So we got that. Now just kind of remember that or write it down, and then we'll set up his new one to match that. Then we're going to measure. We'll just get a quick rough measurement of the Peep sight here. That is 5 1/8. So 5 1/8 Peep. We'll measure his torqueless D-loop here. It's like exactly 1 inch.
So there's your D-loop.
Oh.
That'll make a 1-incher.
Oh, sweet. Thank you very much. Look at that. Ask and you shall receive. So we measured that. Now, stabilizers are pretty easy transfer over. Nothing you got to measure there. Sight's easy to transfer over. The rest, it's pretty much, that's, when I transfer a rest over, I just kind of set it up as I would, you know, it doesn't really matter the measurements that it is on the old bow, because you're going to have to basically retune the new bow. So I can just unbolt the rest and swap that over and then set it up how I would, you know, set it up on a new Hoyt Stratos bow, and then we'll tune it. So that's not too much. Well, while I got it in here, I will go ahead and pop his Peep out. So we're going to be using that on the new one. And I usually, I'll just stick a piece of this through, especially on a single colored string. You want to make sure you keep the center of the string marked. So it's like the absolute center of the string. There's no other way to tell it on a one color string. So I just stick a little tag through there. That's, if you ever see a new string you get in a package or whatever and it has one of these little tags that are kind of pulled up here, that's what it is. It's marking the true center of the string, so that way you know that's exactly where you need to put your peep sight. You know, you can slide that up or down and measure your peep sight and put it in the true center of the string. So that's what that is. All right, and the rest of this is just unbolting the stuff off here. So this is the Stratos 40 with a new HPT cam. This is number 2 HPT cam. So it's the bigger of the two. There's a number 1 and number 2. So he's about a, what did I say, 30-inch draw. So he's going to be, yeah, he'll be right in a pretty good spot on this cam. So this is an awesome cam. Like, this is the first cam system from Hoyt that's going to drag me away from the old spiral type cam system. So been shooting one for a while, and I think he's really going to like it. So really adjustable cam system. You got your adjustable let off, 65, 70, 75%. You can choose a hard or a soft wall. You can take this and this little mod foot, swap it top to bottom, and change the wall from a hard to soft. 1/4-inch draw length adjustments, super smooth cam. So I think he's really going to like it. But anyhow, that's it. Let's get to putting some stuff on it. All right, so I just like to do just a quick visual. Anytime I get a new bow out of the box, just give it a quick sight down the, you know, the string and cams. Make sure nothing crazy happened in shipping. Just kind of give the strings a once over. Make sure everything's on the, you know, the hanger's good before you pull it back for the first time. And I just like to give it a pull. This is a 50-pounder. Yeah, that's something I'm going to check on his old bow. I think his old bow is a 50-pound max too. So 50-pound max. Everything feels pretty good. So it's pretty easy. I mean, I'm just going to take some of the stuff that's just bolt-on stuff, just bolt that on there, and then we'll start getting into the rest and the, you know, the D-loop and the peep and all that, and putting all that back on there. It's pretty simple. Just write down your measurements, put everything back, but we'll go ahead and start putting stuff on, kind of in the same place that he had it on his old bow. Now we'll go ahead and put his timing cord back on the axle. It'll be, I might have to lengthen it just a little bit, because I believe with these limbs that are stood up a little bit straighter than his Invicta, that distance is a little bit greater on this bow, so I should be able to get it with this right here. Give him a little more distance. So we'll go ahead and press it. Okay, I'm just kind of thinking of things as I do it here. So if you have a press like this, it's, you know, last chance press, or ones that have the fingers. Something that's gonna, if you have to, you should do this anyhow, but especially if you're gonna be removing the axles or changing spacers or whatever. You can see, I don't know if you get in here close and you can see whenever I go to press this, see how that basically the limb tips are moving. Just, it means you don't have your fingers adjusted right. So what I do is basically run it in to where it's just snug on one of the fingers, or whatever one hits first. You can see this one here is still loose, so just take and adjust that in to where it's touching. So basically you just want to have even pressure on those fingers, and that's going to allow it to press the bow square and not, you know, crank one of the limbs sideways. And then when you go, if you go to take an axle out, you know, that limb is going to pop loose, and it's going to be nearly impossible to get the axle out or back in if you do get it out. So just make sure you got even fingertip pressure on your limbs. So do the same thing on both sides, and you can see it when you go to press it if it's square or not. Okay. I'm just going to pop this axle out. I really wish George had a flat screwdriver here. Aha. That one, oh, there it is. That's the same one I use at home. Now I feel at home. Use this handy dandy little Hoyt tool here. It also has a little pin on there to help you push your axle out. And then when you push the axle out, it doesn't push it all the way out. It leaves it in there enough to still hold on to that spacer. And then you can go ahead and stick your tool in there, grab that spacer, pull the axle the rest of the way out, and your little spacer stays right on there. So I had to do that to put this, hook this rest back up the way he had it. So I'm just going to put the spacer in this little loop that he has on his rest timing cord and try to get it back in there without dropping that spacer. Can I do it? So another thing we can touch on here just real quick, the spacer's in there. So every manufacturer comes with a certain spacing that's going to keep your limb tips at a certain width, and they need to stay at that width. So if you're going to switch spacers, don't just grab random ones out of your little pile, you know, by your bow press and put them in there. Like, it has to be a certain width apart. So try to use the factory spacers. You can flip them back and forth, and, you know, just try to use the same ones that the manufacturers sell for that particular bow and cam system. If not, you're going to end up with limb tips that are either pinched together or spread too far apart. And depending on your axle length, you may not be able to move that width too much and still get your E-clips on there, but just something to keep in mind. But you want to have the correct amount of limb tip spacing in there, but also if your axle, like on this particular one here, we got the factory spacing in there, so it's right. The axle's pushed all the way in tight, but if you look, there's a little bit of, if I was just to put this E-clip on there, there'd be a little bit of play in there to where that limb tip could spread apart and your cam could potentially walk side to side a little bit. So always use the correct manufacturer's cam spacing in there, and then if you have any little bit of extra room for your axle, use a small little spacer to take up 100% of the space before you put your E-clip on. That'll keep everything just the right amount of width, and to keep your E-clips holding your limb tips nice and tight so your cam don't walk back and forth. All right, so everything's on. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put Now Pat, I know everyone here at the Archery Learning Center likes to use the torqueless D-loop. I've never personally used one. I mean, I could see where it's got its advantages. Obviously, it's torqueless, hence the name. So it does have some advantages there as far as that goes, but it's going to be a loop that is going to pull below your arrow. So it's going to go on the string and your arrow is going to sit right above it. So we're going to go ahead and tie this on there. George makes them here. I guess the one we took off was 1 inch, and he said this one is a 1 inch also. So you just basically feed it through itself, put it on there. I'll just leave it on there loose for now, but that's basically all there is to it. So I'll just leave it on there loose to where we can slide it up and down and get his knocking point set right. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll grab one of his arrows here. Looks like he is currently shooting the Super Drive 19s. So we'll go ahead and set it up. We'll just get this kind of close. Now this is the way I set up these bows, and which is something else I'm gonna look at on his Invicta, but 99% of the people that I talk to when we're talking about loop height and where you're pulling on the string, I think that most people like to end up to where when your arrow is sitting on the string at 90 degrees, the bottom of the arrow is running through the center of the rest mount holes. So it's going to be sitting something that looks about like that right there. So you can see the bottom of that arrow is running about through the center of those holes. And that's going to be where you're pulling at on the string. So if you're pulling lower on the string, the riser is going to have more angle this way, and it's going to want to put more pressure into the deeper palm section of your hand. And a lot of people have low tendencies, like low holding tendencies if you're pulling too low on the string. If you get pulling higher, you can see how it rocks that riser back. So depending on where you pull on the string, changes the riser angle, the same as, say, what adjusting your tiller would do. So if I was to take the top limb, and take some tiller out of it, it's going to change that riser angle. So, but what I've found with the grip location on this bow, it's the same exact grip location compared to where it is in the center of the bow and everything as it was on the Invicta bow. So depending on where your grip location is, some bows may have the grip maybe lower to where the arrow or the rest mount holes are exactly in the center of the bow. Some bows may have the grip higher to where the center of the bow is closer to your grip. But anyhow, this bow here, I feel like a lot of people are going to shoot it best when the bottom of the arrow is going through the center of the rest mount holes right there. So we're going to set this up, and I'm literally just eyeballing it, because any slight adjustment that we have to do is just going to be a little bit with the rest. So what I'm looking at when I'm eyeballing is I'm holding this up here, this arrow up with my finger, bottom of the arrow through the center of those holes, and I'm basically looking at this machining right here in the riser that's cut flat. I know that's cut exactly straight, and it's going to be exactly perpendicular to the string. And I'm just looking at the top of the arrow trying to make that square. I can tell if it's sitting up here, it's running downhill, vice versa if it's down here. So I'm just eyeballing that, and that's how I'm going to initially lock down the knocking point. So I'm looking at that. You can tilt the bow, get a little bit better angle on it. I'm just pulling the knock down on the string, rechecking it. So you can use a bow square too. I just found that it's just easier just to kind of eyeball it to get that first initial tune, and then fine adjust with the rest to get your perfect tune you're looking for. And then once you get that, you can take a measurement basically from your axle, from one of your axles, doesn't matter, take a measurement from, say, your top axle to right to your knocking point, right where your knock hooks onto your string. Write that down. That way, if you have another bow, backup bow that's the same model, you can put that loop exactly in the same spot, and that's going to have you pulling from the same part of the string. So you're going to have the exact same grip pressure in your hand and everything. So that looks like that's pretty good right there. So we'll go ahead, lock that loop down, which I'm just going to stick an Allen wrench through here for now. And just kind of give it a tug. And that's going to lock that down initially right now. So I believe what I saw George and them guys do, and then on Pat's old bow, he served above it and below it too to kind of keep it, to hold it in there a little more securely. So we'll go ahead and put some serving on there now, and then we'll put one above the knock to hold the knock from sliding up the string. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just tie just some simple overhead knots right on the top of this torqueless D-loop, just to kind of keep it in place, keep it from sliding around. And it'll also give the knock just a little bit more of a secure area to kind of recenter on every time you knock it and come to full draw. So just tie that there. So we'll do that. And I'm just going to tie another piece on the bottom side of it just to kind of, once again, keep it more secure. Push it up tight. I'm not going to lie, I've literally never tied one of these torqueless D-loops on a bow ever before. So this is the first time. All right. Now, one more piece of serving. And this will be for the actual knocking point or on the top side of the knock. So I just we'll do some more overhand knots. I'll put his knock in there. Now I know with this type of loop here, it's not like a regular split loop. This is going to be pulling on the bottom side of the knock. So you're going to have a little bit of string angle when this comes to full draw. So I'm going to let a little bit of room in there. Probably I'm probably going to leave about 1 or 2 serving wraps of room in there, and I'm going to see what that looks like when I come to full draw. If it needs closed up anymore, we can do that. All right, then we can tie this in, just simple overhead or overhand knots.
How many do you think you do every time?
I would say probably 5 or 6 on this, and then what I'm going to do is come back down over top of this and go over top and just kind of do another layer on top of that. So right now I'm going to come back and I'm going to start going back down over top of it. So I'll just come right in, pull that serving down to where it fits inside of a groove, and start coming back down.
And Jesse Broadwater says you gotta buy a torqueless D-loop from Leo or you're not even in archery.
I hope I'm doing this right. I told him this is the first time I've ever tied a torqueless D-loop on a bow ever.
It's not hard, is it?
No, it ain't hard.
You just orient the clock of the D-loop with the Peep sight so it comes back straight and tie it down. That's it.
All right.
And often, if I don't know what I'm doing, I'll leave it untied and shoot it a little bit, shoot it through the paper, get my peep right, then I'll tie it down.
Does this look right? Let's have George's, see if I've done this right.
Yeah, that looks right. You may, it doesn't look like that'll rotate, but I normally tie it like through here, you know, like just tie
Okay.
on top of it. So once I have the peep in and I set the orientation of the thing so it can't rotate.
Okay.
That's all.
Gotcha.
So it still trains the peep sight just like a regular D-loop will.
So how about when you're setting up for knock pinch? So I left a little bit of room in here. How much room would you leave?
And that's plenty. I'd actually do just a little less. You've got like 3 serving wraps there. I normally do 1.
That's what I would.
And with a long-eared knock, when you draw the bow back, you see it'll stay on.
Mm-hmm.
And with a biter knock, it is no trouble. You can have 0.
Yeah.
And a biter knock will work because it's made with that angle built in.
Yeah. Okay.
And for people that like kids or low poundage, ladies, short draw length or whatever, that can't get their distance, you can put this on top of the arrow.
Oh,
And that'll
okay.
give them a whole bunch more distance. They can hit Bigfoot, you know, all that.
I gotcha. Cool. There you go. From the master himself. I'll burn this for now, and then we'll drop back and see what the knock pinch looks like. And if I have to add more, I'll do that, and then tie this in a little bit better just to see, just to keep it in place. All right, now let's put his peep in. So his peep was 5 1/8. So so 5 1/8 is going to be about right here. So once again, what I was talking about on the true center of the string, solid color string, they always put a tag in there, or they should put a tag in there for the true center of the string. That's where your peep needs to go. 5 1/8 is going to be down here. So let's go. Got to get the right angle. See, these peep sights have a couple different cuts for angles. Let's make sure we got the right angle, which it looks like that is not the right one. There we go. Okay. Let's start there. And every single time I put a peep sight in, I put it in, it ends up exactly backwards and I have to flip it around. So I already know I'm going to have to do that. It's just, it happens every time. I guarantee you. Look at that. So we'll just take five and an 8. All right. Let the pressure back on there. I'm going to go ahead and just put a wrap around that so we can shoot it so the peep don't fly out. So always never shoot your bow without at least tying a wrap around your peep sight, just to keep it from flying out. I've seen eyes poked out before because peep sight will fly out, hit the riser, bounce right back in your eyeball. That's no good. Oops. So I just put a few wraps around there to hold it for now, and then once we make sure it's in the right spot, after we get Pat here to actually shoot the bow, we'll come back and we'll tie it in on the top and bottom, make sure it doesn't slide up or down. Okay. All right, now I'm going to check the draw length to see how close it is. I'm going to check the draw length and the timing at the same time while I have it in here. See, I have my my draw board is set up the opposite way. Mainly for a right-handed shooter, I can look at the timing a little bit better. So my peg, my bow would be over here, and I'll be cranking from this side so I can see the timing, but it's all right. We can see it from here. So first of all, I'm going to make sure the timing is close, which it actually is. Pretty close. Yeah, so I can see right now on these cam systems, you do want to make sure, you know, that the timing is dead even to start. So it may be kind of hard to see, but I got the bottom just barely touching that little piece of rubber, and the top is just a little bit farther away from the stop. So that means that this cable right here is a little bit shorter. So I'm going to take a half a twist out of this cable right here, and it should get the timing right. You want to kind of have that right before you go fine-tuning your draw length. So we'll get that set right. Check the draw again. So one of the cool things about the way this cam system is designed is if you need to make a half a twist adjustment in your timing, the way that these cables hook on this cam, it's super easy to do. That's all the bend that this cam system puts on the cable. So if you have to make a half a twist adjustment, which sometimes you need to do, it's super easy. So I'm going to take just a half a twist out, which will be like this, and then just kind of rebend that cable. Now it'll fit on the cam that way. Super easy. Some cam systems have like a peg that this cable like wraps around like this, and that serving and string will get formed to that cam over time of shooting it. And if you have to make a half a twist, it's almost impossible to, you know, bend that cable back the other way without the string or serving going wonky or your serving separating. So it's super easy on these cams to just make half a twist adjustments. And I always just take and I'll just pop the string off to make this, and I'll just rotate the cam around to where I can get to the little teardrop that the cable hooks on. So it's super easy to get that cable on and off of there if you just pop the string off. If you don't pop the string off, it's kind of hard because sometimes it gets stuck behind the limb and you can't get in there to get it. So just take and pop the string off, rotate the cam around, and stick the cable back on there. And just make sure all the strings are in the grooves. And I always like to give it a couple drawbacks, hold it at full draw for a minute, just to kind of get the cables a little bit more seated in. Now timing's dead perfect now. So I'm going to check the draw length when I'm, these mods have a little piece of rubber on the mod foot. So generally most people are going to be pulling into the wall a little bit, and they're going to be like kind of squishing that rubber a little bit. So when I check the draw length, I want to have it kind of squished back into that rubber a little bit. All right, so we're going to check the draw length on here to see what it is. Now that we got the timing fixed, which it should be. I'm just checking the timing right now to make sure it's dead on before I check the draw length, which it's pretty much spot on. So go back to measure the draw length. So this is 28 7/8. His old bow was 28 1/8, so we're, what are we, 3/4 of an inch longer there. So we need to shorten this one up, which is good. We got room. This is a 2.1 module. It's in the D position, which is the longest position. So we just need to loosen a couple screws on the modules, shorten the draw length up, and then recheck it. We got background music. George is getting crazy over there. Okay. What do we got? T15. So, just come in here. Kind of show you. It's pretty easy. So, you got your draw length window right there. You can see it's in big letter D. You can tell the mod is all the way this way by this, slot right there. So it's all the way maxed out. We need to shorten it up. So you just crack this one loose a little bit. Come up here. You have to take this one all the way out. And we're going to shorten it up. So we got, there's a 1/2 inch. So it was in big D. There's a little d is going to be a 1/4 inch. 1/2 inch would be big E, little e, 3/4 of an inch. So we'll go ahead and set that right there on little e. Same thing on this side. Match it up with little e. There's little e. All right. Now let's check that. Sure we get it just kind of squishing those rubber stops again to simulate you pulling back into the wall a little bit. And there we are, 28 and an 8, exactly the same as his other bow. So draw length is now set. We're just gonna do something to his sight. We're gonna fix his scope, throw his stabilizers on there, and we'll be shooting it through paper. I'll go ahead and throw his stabilizers on. Pat's one of those guys that does not run a lot of weight on his stabilizers. I like his style. He don't use a disconnect on the front or anything, just screws it right into the front. So that's that. Set this aside, and now we're gonna work on his scope setup a little bit. We're gonna change out his scope to a new scope and lens, so I'll show you how to do that. We're gonna change out Pat's scope setup here. So we just loosen the 2 little screws on the side here to hold this lens container in, pop that out. One of the cool things about these scopes is you can have several of these set up in various different ways, and pop one, you know, put whatever one in there you need. So we're gonna take that out so we can get to this screw in here that's actually holding the scope onto the sight. So just stick that through there, pop that loose. That comes off pretty easily. And now he's gonna go with a new scope here and a new doublet lens, which I'll show you. Explain a little bit about that. Look at that packaging. Very nice. So we have a new scope here. Comes just like that, ready to go out of the package. Batteries in it, ready to go. Comes with a lens retainer already. All you have to do is figure out what lens you want to put in there, and you can basically just pop this white O-ring out, put your lens in there, pop the O-ring back in, holds the lens in there. Pretty slick. Comes with this here little box that has everything you need to set up your scope. So it comes with different levels, fiber optic, directions for changing the battery, more fiber optic, batteries, extra set of batteries, bunch of different color stick-on dots and reticles, different color levels, extra little set screws there in case you happen to drop one. And this is basically your light replacement kit if you shoot in a world archery event. You can't use any electronics, so you pop this out, pop this in there, no electronics. So we are going to actually, we're going to put him one of these, which is, well, that's a fancy little lens cloth. This is a new doublet lens, which is pretty awesome. I'm currently shooting one of these, and to me, it's the best lens out there. You can, like for 3D shooting, you gotta have a good lens. It's gotta be super clear. This is the only lens I could shoot for 3D that gave me like the least amount of glare. I could shoot 6 power with way less of a clarifier with this lens than I could with any other 6 power lens. With the 5 power doublet lens, I could shoot it with basically no clarifier and get a really super clear sight picture. So pretty cool lens. This is a 5 power, and it's a center drilled. So I'm not sure if he's going to want a center drilled because he currently has a circle in there. So depending on if he's, you know, I don't know what he's shooting this for, indoors or whatever, but we can either put a circle on his lens or leave this in there. I'm going to kind of let that up to him. But anyhow, easy enough to just pop this new cartridge in. Just pops in there and tighten that down. But first we're going to use this mounting screw to mount the scope onto his sight. So we'll just put this through here. Pop this on here. tighten that up and put his new lens in there. Just snug that down. And you're off to the races, depending on whatever kind of reticle you want in there. So, all right, that's that. Now we're just gonna fling one through paper. I'm not like a huge paper tuning guy, but for starters, we'll shoot one through there and see what we get and see what kind of adjustments maybe we need to make after that. But after that, he's pretty much set up, ready to go. All we need is Pat here so we can check his peep height, make sure the draw length's on, and we'll go from there. So I can tell already, obviously it's going to be me shooting someone else's bow. It's not the best way. Like, I can't paper tune a bow for someone else. Can't really tune a bow because everyone puts their hand in the bow differently, anchors differently, whatnot. But I'll just get it close for myself. But I can already tell his rest from his old bow it's inside a little bit. So I'm just going to move that out a little bit, kind of get the center shot a little more along the lines of where I think it will be close. And when I'm doing that, all I'm doing to eyeball the center shot is basically just taking the string and running it down the center of the grip. And you can even look on here, and take these cams sit really close to the center of the riser. Just eyeball the string down the center of the riser, center of the grip, and then look down the arrow shaft and see where the tip of the arrow is sitting. And you can adjust your center shot that way to just kind of get everything lined up to where the string is lined up with your tip of your arrow, and that's going to be a good starting point. So we'll move that a little bit. And then we will fling one. Draw lengths can be a little long. Oh, this sight wasn't tight. I was like, what was that noise? Here, I didn't have his sight tight. Good Lord. We're going to have to do that again. I don't want that on there. Jeez. I thought I tightened that. I'm like, what the heck was that racket? All right, where do you want to start? Peep's coming around pretty good. Not too bad for starters. Just let me be a little bit tail low, but nothing a little bump on the rest won't fix. So just to get him started. So it's coming out a little tail low. Definitely not what you want. So I'm just going to take and move his rest down some. So we'll just go about right there. And we'll try another one. Like I say, this kind of means nothing right now because it's me shooting someone else's bow through paper. It's not gonna tune the same, but I just wanted to just get a couple shots through it. So that's pretty good for starters. We'll let him shoot it and everything to see what it does for him. But another thing I want to look at is kind of how the knock fit is at full draw. So you can see with that, the way that loop pulls from under the knock and why I left a little bit of space in those knock ties is now at full draw with the angle of that string, it kind of tightened up that knock fit right there. So I think we'll leave that. We'll leave that how it is. And then he's going to have to come in and shoot it, and we'll just fine tune it to fit him. He might like right now it's on 75% let off. He might like 60 or 65 or 70%. So right now, it's just up to fine-tuning it for him and fine-tuning his peep height, and that's pretty much all there is to it. He's off to the races after that. Pretty easy to set up. I mean, like I say, these bows come with the different modules if you need it right out of the box, different grip inserts, all that. So, you know, it even comes with different spacers. So if you have to shim the cam, since there's no yokes on here, a lot of people are scared of that. You know, they're like, well, how are we going to tune it? Well, you just tune it with spacers, and I feel it's a better way of tuning anyhow because, you know, that's never going to change. You could have, you know, with your yokes on there, you could have, you know, a string move or whatever. It's going to could change your tune a little bit. But anyhow, it comes with the spacers, different spacers than these. So if you do, you know, if you can't get the tune with just flopping these spacers on the top and bottom, it comes with a different size spacers in the package so you can get it just how you want it. So other than that, that is Pat's Stratos 40 HBT cam, set up as similar as I could get it to his old Invicta. And if you don't win Vegas with it this year, I'm going to be disappointed. So Pat, you better get practicing.